Welcome to Nidra Narratives. Settle in, like and subscribe this channel, and leave in comments what content would you like to see. Tonight, we are going to leave the present moment behind. We are going to let the noise of the modern world fade into a distant hum. Settle in. We are going to travel back 400 years to a time when the maps were full of blank spaces and the oceans were full of silence. You are safe here. The events we speak of are long settled. The voices are quiet. The ink is dry. We are merely observers, floating like mist through the corridors of history. Let us begin. The City of Smoke. Imagine the color grey. Not the flat digital grey of a screen, but the heavy, living, breathing grey of wool soaked in freezing rain. This is London in September 1599. It is a small, anxious city, huddled nervously on the banks of the River Thames, terrified of the Spanish, terrified of the coming winter, and terrified of the plague that returns every summer like a dark tide. If you were to walk down Cheapside tonight, the fog would wrap around you like a wet blanket. It is a fog composed of river mist and the smoke of sea coal fires burning in 1,000 hearths, a thick yellow-grey smog that clings to the timber frames of the houses. The houses lean toward each other across the narrow alleys, like old men whispering secrets, their upper stories almost touching, blocking out the pale light of the sky. The air is thick. It smells of wet wood, of salt from the tidal river, of unwashed wool, and of the damp earth. Queen Elizabeth I sits on the throne. She is the Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, the woman who defied the Spanish Armada. But she is old now. Her face is painted with white lead to hide the pockmarks of time. Her red wig is heavy with pearls, and her teeth are black from her love of sugar. Her kingdom is poor. It is a cold island on the very edge of the known world, isolated from the great Catholic powers of Europe. To the people of this grey city, the world ends at the horizon. They know of the Americas, wild, strange lands to the west, where men go to die in search of gold. But to the east lies a dream. They call it the Indies. They do not know it as a country of people, of farmers and poets and kings. To them, the Indies is a sensation. It is a collection of desires. It is the heat of a black peppercorn bursting on the tongue, masking the taste of rotting winter meat. It is the smell of cloves that numbs a toothache. It is the sheer, impossible smoothness of silk against rough, wool-chafed skin. In 1599, spices are not ingredients. They are wealth. They are status. A pocketful of nutmeg is enough to buy a townhouse in Shoreditch. A sack of pepper is worth a man's life. For decades, the English have watched with jealous, hungry eyes as their rivals, the Portuguese and the Dutch, sail past their grey island, their heavy carracks groaning under the weight of this treasure. The Portuguese have held the secrets of the East for 100 years. They control the sea lanes. They control the maps. They control the wind. But the English are tired of watching. They are tired of paying the Dutch merchants 3 shillings, then 5 shillings, then 8 shillings for the flavour of their supper. Deep in the heart of the City of London, the bells of St. Paul's Cathedral toll. Dong, dong, dong. It is the 24th of September. The leaves on the trees are turning brittle and brown. In a building called Founders Hall, a group of men are gathering. Look at them closely. They are not soldiers in armour. They are not aristocrats in silk. They are merchants. They wear doublets of sombre broadcloth, heavy cloaks trimmed with beaver fur to keep out the damp chill. They smell of tallow candles, of iron gall ink, of damp wool, and of ambition. There are 101 of them. Among them is the Lord Mayor of London. There are grocers, drapers, leather sellers, skinners. They are the burghers of this city. They are angry. The Dutch merchants have just raised the price of pepper again, squeezing the English market until it screams. It is an outrage. It is a challenge. They gather around a heavy oak table. The room is dimly lit by candles that flicker in the draught. They speak in low, serious voices, their breath misting in the cold air. They talk of stocks and ventures. They are doing something radical, something that will change the DNA of the human world, though they do not know it yet. They are pooling their money. No single man, not even the richest among them, can afford to outfit a ship for the Indies. The risk is too high. The ocean is too vast. But if they stand together, if they put their money into a single pot, then they become something else. They become a single body, a corpus, a company. Listen to the sound of the quill scratching on the parchment. Scritch, scratch, scritch. That sound is louder than cannon fire. It is the sound of the Governor and Company of Merchants of London trading into the East Indies, taking its first breath. They subscribe a total of £30,133. On New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1600, as the last hours of the 16th century slip away into history, Queen Elizabeth signs the Charter. She grants them the right to sail into the sunrise, past the Cape of Good Hope, and trade with the mysterious kingdoms of the East. The wooden world. Now you must leave the comfort of the land. Imagine stepping onto the deck of the flagship, the Red Dragon. She is a galleon, built for war as much as for trade. She is not large by modern standards, perhaps 600 tons, but she is a masterpiece of Elizabethan engineering. Run your hand along the gunwale. The wood is rough, splintery oak, soaked in brine. The ropes are thick hemp, coated in tar to keep out the rot. The sails above you are vast sheets of canvas, heavy and cream-coloured, waiting for the breath of God to fill them. The journey begins in February 1601. It takes months just to reach the equator. Life on board is a slow, grinding monotony, punctuated by moments of sheer awe. You live in a world that is always moving. Creak, groan, splash, thud. The wood complains constantly. The ship feels alive, like a great beast swimming through the dark. Down below decks, where the sailors sleep, it is a world of shadows. There are no windows. It is pitch black, illuminated only by the occasional flicker of a lantern. It smells of unwashed bodies. 200 men packed into a space the size of a tennis court, mixed with the smell of vinegar used to clean the decks, bilge water, and old rope. You sleep in a hammock that sways violently with every roll of the ship. You eat ship's biscuit, a puck of flour and water baked so hard you have to smash it with a hammer to eat it. Often it is crawling with weevils. The sailors tap the biscuits on the table to knock the worms out before taking a bite. Salted beef, salted pork, dried peas, beer. This is your diet for 6 months. And then the sickness comes. The silent ghost on every voyage, scurvy. It begins with a lethargy, a deep tiredness that settles in the bones, a feeling that the spirit is detaching from the body. The men stop singing, they stop talking, they simply stare at the horizon. It is a tragedy of ignorance. The cure is simple, a splash of lime juice, a crate of oranges. But the company directors do not know this yet. It will take another 150 years before a Scottish doctor named James Lind proves the power of citrus, a triumph of European science that will eventually allow their navies to rule the earth. But for the men of the Red Dragon in 1601, there is no science. There is only the mystery of the fading. They wrap the dead in their bedding, weight them with a cannonball, and slide them into the grey Atlantic. Splash. Gone. The ship sails on. They round the Cape of Good Hope. The Portuguese call it the Cape of Storms. The waves here are not like normal waves. They are mountains of water, grey-green and cold as ice. The red dragon climbs them, shudders at the peak, and then falls into the valley on the other side, with a crash that rattles the teeth. Many ships do not make it. They are swallowed by the silence of the deep. But the red dragon is lucky. She survives the Cape. She catches the trade winds. She sails north, up the coast of Africa, across the Indian Ocean. And finally, after months of nothing but blue, they see it. A line of green on the horizon. The smell hits them before they see the land. The smell of wet earth, of wood smoke, of drying fish, and something else. Something sweet and spicy. India. The arrival of the sailor. On August 24th, 1608, the Hector, commanded by Captain William Hawkins, drops anchor in the estuary of the Tapti River near the port of Surat. Surat is the gateway to Mecca, the busiest, richest, most chaotic port in the world, crowded with ships from everywhere, Chinese junks, Arab dhows, Portuguese caravels. Captain William Hawkins stands on the deck. He is not a polished diplomat. He is a man of the sea, rough-hewn, sunburnt, with hands calloused from hauling ropes. He wears the heavy wool clothes of an Elizabethan Englishman, a doublet, hose, a thick cloak, sweating profusely in the humid Gujarati heat. But Hawkins has a secret weapon, a strange quirk of his biography. Years ago, he had travelled in the Levant, in the Middle East. He had learned to speak Turkish. Turkish is the ancestral language of the Mughal Emperors, who are descendants of Tamerlane and Genghis Khan. In the privacy of their family, they do not speak the Persian of the court. They speak Chagatai Turkish. When Hawkins steps off the boat and his boots hit the mud of India, he expects this key to open the door immediately. Instead, he is surrounded by chaos. The noise is 1,000 languages being shouted at once. The smell is open drains, roasting meat, jasmine flowers, cow dung, and spices. The heat is a physical weight that presses down on his shoulders. The Portuguese are already there. They see this Englishman, and their eyes narrow. They whisper in the ears of the local Mughal officials, the customs officers. "These English are thieves," the Jesuits hiss. "They are pirates. Do not trust them." Hawkins is detained. His goods are seized. He is threatened. He realizes that language alone is not enough. He needs patience. But Hawkins is stubborn. He is a man who has survived the Cape of Storms. He demands to see the Emperor. "I have a letter," he shouts in Turkish. "A letter from King James, King of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, to the Great Mogul." The officials are confused. Who is this red-faced man speaking their courtly language? Eventually, curiosity wins out. They let him pass. He begins the long journey inland. From Surat to Agra, it takes weeks. He travels by bullock cart and by palanquin. He travels through a landscape that feels like a hallucination. He sees elephants painted with flowers plodding down the road. He sees sadhus, holy men, naked and covered in ash, walking silently by the road. He sees temples carved into living rock. He survives the dust, the heat, and the fevers. And finally, in 1609, he arrives at the red sandstone walls of Agra. He enters the court of the Emperor Jahangir. The hall of public audience is a spectacle of light and shadow. The pillars are covered in gold leaf. The floors are covered in silk carpets from Persia. The air is cool, scented with rosewater and sandalwood. Hundreds of courtiers stand in silent rows, their hands clasped over their bellies, their eyes downcast. No one speaks, no one moves. The discipline is absolute. And there, on a balcony high above them, sits the emperor, Jahangir. He is dripping with pearls. A halo of gold is painted behind his head. Hawkins approaches. He feels the eyes of the court on him. They are laughing at him, this barbarian, this Frank. But then Hawkins speaks. He looks up at the emperor and speaks in Turkish. "Peace be upon you, great king." The emperor leans forward. The boredom vanishes from his face. He sees this rough sailor. He hears the language of his grandfather. He smiles, and in that smile, the door to India cracks open. Just a fraction. The English Khan. "Who are you?" the emperor asks, his voice echoing in the marble hall. "I am William Hawkins," the sailor replies, "a servant of King James of England." Jahangir laughs. It is a warm, booming sound. He is delighted. He has never met an Englishman before. To him, this man is a curiosity, like a new species of bird or a rare gemstone. He waves his hand, dismissing the Portuguese Jesuits who stand nearby, their black robes rustling with indignation. "Come closer," the emperor says. "Tell me of this cold island of yours." And so begins one of the strangest friendships in history. Hawkins does not return to his ship. He stays. He moves into the palace. He takes off his heavy wool doublet and puts on the silk robes of a Mughal nobleman. He learns to wrap a turban. He learns to walk with the slow, deliberate grace of the court. The emperor gives him a title, the English Khan. English Khan. Imagine the scene. It is evening in the Zanana garden. The air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and wet earth. Fireflies dance over the lotus pools. The emperor and the sailor sit together on a carpet. They are talking. Jahangir asks about this distant island. "Does your king really have no elephants?" "None, your majesty," Hawkins admits. "Only horses." "And his army? How many men?" Hawkins exaggerates. "Thousands," he says. Jahangir smiles, knowing it is a lie, but he enjoys the story. For 2 years, Hawkins lives a life he could never have dreamed of back in the mud of London. He is given a salary, a title, and status. But the emperor wants to bind this strange pet to him. He wants to make him truly Indian. "You must marry," Jahangir says one day. Hawkins hesitates. "I am a Christian, your majesty. I cannot marry a Muslim." "I know," the emperor replies. "So I have found you a Christian." He introduces Hawkins to Mariam. She is the daughter of an Armenian Christian merchant, a noblewoman living in the court. She is beautiful, educated, and wealthy. And she agrees. So, the rough sailor from the Thames marries the Armenian lady of Agra. It is a love match. Against all odds, they are happy. They live in a palace near the river. But the court is a snake pit. The Portuguese Jesuits are watching. They are furious that a heretic Protestant is so close to the throne. They begin to whisper. They bribe the doorkeepers to keep Hawkins out. They bribe the food tasters. Hawkins begins to fear for his life. He refuses to eat the palace food. He has his wife, Mariam, cook for him, for fear of poison. Slowly, the emperor's favour turns. Jahangir is a man of moods. He gets bored easily. The novelty of the English Khan wears off. Hawkins has no more gifts to give, no more broadcloth, no more mirrors. He is just a man asking for favours. One morning in 1611, Hawkins arrives at court and finds the doors barred. The guards do not bow. They look through him. He realises it is over. He packs his bags. He takes his wife, Mariam. They flee Agra in the night, riding hard for the coast. They leave behind the elephants, the titles, the silk robes. They make it to a ship. They set sail for England. But Hawkins never sees the grey fog of London again. He dies on the voyage home, his body weakened by the years of wine and heat. Mariam is left alone, a widow on a ship full of rough men, sailing to a land she has never seen. The first attempt has failed. The door to India is shut. The arrival of dignity. The year turns. 1615. The East India Company in London is desperate. They have lost money, they have lost men, they have lost face. King James I is annoyed. "Do not send me another sailor," he tells the company directors. "Send a gentleman. Send someone who knows how to stand before a king." He chooses Sir Thomas Roe. Pause to look at him. Roe is everything Hawkins was not. He is tall, gaunt, and elegant. He has a pointed beard and cold, intelligent eyes. He is a member of Parliament. He has been to the Amazon. He is a scholar. He carries a letter from King James, written on parchment, illuminated with gold leaf. It addresses the great Mughal as a brother, a fellow monarch. Roe lands in Surat in September 1615. The local Mughal governor is used to bullying merchants. He sends his men to search Roe's luggage. They want to open his chests, dig through his clothes, tax his goods. Roe draws his sword. He does not swing it, he just holds it, the steel gleaming in the harsh sunlight. "I am the ambassador of the King of England," he says, his voice quiet and dangerously calm. "I am not a merchant. I am not a servant. I am the voice of a king. You will not touch my things." The governor is shocked. The Portuguese never did this. The Dutch never did this. Who is this arrogant man? Roe refuses to pay the bribe. He refuses to step aside. He waits on the beach for weeks, sweating in his velvet doublet, refusing to move until he is treated with respect. Eventually, the governor blinks. He lets Roe pass, untouched. Roe travels to the court at Ajmer. He puts on his finest clothes, a doublet of crimson velvet, a cloak lined with gold lace, a hat with an ostrich feather. He looks like a peacock, but a very stiff English peacock. He walks toward the emperor. The custom of the court is the sijda, prostration. You must throw yourself on the floor and kiss the dust before the feet of the great Mughal. The master of ceremonies gestures for Roe to get down. Roe stops. He stands rigid. "I will not," he says. "I bow to my God and I bow to my king. I do not kiss the floor for any man." The court gasps. Silence ripples through the tent. Jahangir looks at him. He sees the pride in this sick man's face. He sees the absolute refusal to bend. And he respects it. "Let him stand," Jahangir says. Roe takes off his hat and bows from the waist, a stiff, formal European bow. He stays for 4 years. It is a lonely time. He is always broke. He is always sick. But he persists. Finally, in 1619, he secures a permission slip. The English may live in Surat. They may trade in peace. It is not a grand empire. It is a foothold. Roe leaves, believing he has failed. He does not know he has established a precedent of dignity that will last for centuries. The mist of Ambient. We drift now, away from the dry heat of Surat. We float east, far east, across the Bay of Bengal, through the Malacca Strait, into the humid, verdant maze of the Indonesian archipelago. The year is 1623. The English East India Company is not content with India. India is just a stopover. The real prize is here, the Spice Islands, the Moluccas. Imagine an island that is nothing but a volcano rising out of a turquoise sea. The air here is so thick with moisture you can almost drink it. And the smell, it hits you 5 miles offshore. It is a scent that is sweet, pungent, and medical. Cloves, nutmeg, mace. But there is a problem. The jungle has eyes. The Dutch are here. The VOC. If the English company is a scrappy, hungry dog, the Dutch company is a tiger. They are richer. They are ruthless. They have built massive stone fortresses. The English try to set up a small trading post on the island of Amboina. But the Dutch governor sees them as a threat. In February 1623, The mist rolls down from the volcano. The Dutch soldiers move in silence. They arrest the English traders. They accuse them of a plot. We will not linger on the darkness of what happens next. It is enough to know that in the silence of that tropical morning, the English presence in the Spice Islands ends. The survivors leave. The English company makes a decision born of sadness and necessity. "Let the Dutch have the spices," they whisper. "We will go back to India. We will take the cloth." It seems like a defeat, but they have just stumbled onto the path that will lead them to the true wealth of the world. The Painted Garden. We return to India, to the Coromandel coast, the eastern edge of the subcontinent. The year is 1630. The landscape here is different from the mud of Surat. It is a long, flat ribbon of golden sand, beaten by the relentless, thundering surf of the Bay of Bengal. The heat is dry and fierce, baking the earth into a hard, red clay. The English ships drop anchor off the town of Masulipatam, the fish port. They are here for one thing: textiles. To understand why this matters, you must look at the clothes of a 17th century European. The world is dressed in drab colours. In England, the wool is brown, grey or black. Linen is white. Dye is expensive and it is chemically unstable. If you wash a red shirt in London, it turns pink, then grey. The world is fading. But in India? In India, chemistry is magic. The weavers of the Coromandel have a secret. They know how to use mordants, metallic salts like alum, that bind the dye to the cotton fibre at a molecular level. They can create colours that never fade, colours that are as bright after 100 washes as they were on the loom. Imagine walking into a weaving village. It is a sensory symphony. You hear the rhythmic clack, clack, clack of thousands of looms, a sound like a giant wooden heart beating. You smell the sharp, metallic tang of the indigo vats, where the blue dye ferments in deep pits. You smell the sour scent of the madder root, which makes the red. The English factors walk through the villages, their boots kicking up dust, watching the artists at work. This is kalamkari, pen work. The artist holds a bamboo pen, a kalam, tipped with a ball of wool. He dips it into the dye. With a steady hand, he draws on the cloth. He does not draw English roses. He draws the fantasies of the East. He draws the tree of life, a strange, twisting vine that bears a dozen different kinds of flowers: peonies, chrysanthemums, lotuses, all on one stem. He draws birds with feathers of fire. He draws tigers with smiles. The English buy it all. They call it chintz. They roll it into bales. They load it onto their ships. They send it home. And then the calico craze begins. When these fabrics hit the grey streets of London, it is like a bomb of colour going off. Suddenly, every duchess wants a chintz gown. Every merchant wants a calico curtain. The heavy, itchy wools are thrown into the attic. England wants to be light. England wants to be colourful. England wants to be clean, for unlike wool, cotton can be boiled and washed easily. The East India Company, which was nearly bankrupt after the Spice Island disaster, suddenly finds itself sitting on a gold mine. They are no longer just spice merchants. They are fashion moguls. They realise a profound economic truth. Spices are for the rich, but clothes, everyone needs clothes. The market is infinite. But to control the cloth, they need a home. A real home. Not just a rented house in a Mughal city where the governor can kick them out at a whim. They need a fortress. In 1639, an English factor named Francis Day is sailing down the desolate coast of the south. He is looking for a place where the cloth is cheap and the harbour is safe. He finds a strip of sand. It is nothing much. Just a few fishing catamarans, a few nets drying in the sun, and the relentless roar of the surf. But the local ruler, the Nayak of Wandiwash, makes him an offer. Build here, the Nyack says. I will give you the land. I will give you the right to mint coins. I will give you the right to govern. Why? Because the Nyack is afraid. The region is unstable. The great Vijayanagara Empire has shattered and warlords are fighting. He wants the protection of English guns. Francis Day signs the treaty. He buys the strip of sand. They begin to build. It is 1640. The sun beats down on the backs of the labourers. They dig into the sand. They lay the foundation stones of a fortress. They call it Fort St. George. Around it, a city begins to grow like a living organism. The weavers come first, attracted by the English silver, then the dyers, then the merchants, then the washers, the dhobies, who beat the cloth on the stones of the river. They call it Madras. For the first time, the English are not just guests, they are landlords. They divide the city in two. Inside the fort is White Town. It is a grid of European streets, a church, a parade ground. The English live here in their heavy wigs and woolen coats, drinking arak punch to forget the heat, writing in their ledgers, terrified of the malaria that breeds in the stagnant water of the moat. Outside the walls is Black Town. It is a chaotic, vibrant maze of temples, bazaars, and workshops. It smells of incense, spices, and life. The wall is built, but it is not just stone. It is a language barrier, a culinary division, and a psychological separation that would define the British presence in India for the next 300 years. Us and them, the order and the chaos, the company and the country. The White Cloud. Let us fly north again, to the heart of the Mughal Empire. The year is 1632. While the English are digging in the sand of Madras, the Emperor Shah Jahan is grieving. His favourite wife, Taj Mahal, the chosen one of the palace, has died in childbirth. The emperor is inconsolable. His hair turns white overnight. He weeps for a week. He refuses to listen to music. He refuses to wear jewelry. He decides to build her a tomb that will be a teardrop on the cheek of time. The Taj Mahal. We have all seen pictures of it, but try to see it through the eyes of an Englishman in the 17th century. Peter Mundy, a company factor, travels to Agra in 1632. He stands on the banks of the Yamuna River. He sees a construction site that looks like a city. 20,000 men are working. He sees the marble arrived from Makrana, 200 miles away. It is carried on carts pulled by 1,000 elephants. The marble is not dead stone, it is translucent. It glows in the moonlight. He sees the craftsmen. They are not just masons, they are jewelers. They are practicing pietra dura. They take semi-precious stones, carnelian for orange, jasper for green, lapis lazuli for blue, onyx for black, and they cut them into tiny, paper-thin slices. Then they carve a cavity into the white marble, exactly the same shape. They fit the stone in. It is so seamless that if you run your finger over it, you cannot feel the join. They create flowers of stone that will never wilt. Peter Mundy watches this. He asks the cost. 32 million rupees, the locals whisper. Mundy tries to convert this to pounds. It breaks his brain. It is millions of pounds. It is more than the entire value of the East India Company, the Dutch Company, and the French Company combined. It makes the English feel small. They realize that they are not the protagonists of this story. They are fleas on the back of a golden elephant. Shah Jahan sits on the peacock throne. It is made of 1,150 kilograms of gold. It is studded with diamonds, including the Koh-i-Noor, the mountain of light. It is the physical manifestation of the empire's soul, a seat of power so heavy with wealth that it seems immovable. Yet, history is cruel. This object, the height of Mughal splendor, would one day be dismantled and carried away by the Persian invader Nadir Shah in 1739, a looting that would signal the beginning of the empire's decline and the hollowing out of its authority. But for now, in 1632, it shines unbroken. When the English ambassador approaches him, he does not bring gold. He cannot afford it. He brings curiosities, telescopes, hunting dogs, paintings. Shah Jahan looks at the English with amusement. He likes their dogs, he likes their paintings, but he does not need their trade. To Shah Jahan, the English are useful only for one thing: silver. The Mughals have no silver mines, but the Europeans bring silver from the Americas. It is a global conveyor belt. Silver is dug out of the Andes, shipped to Spain, traded by the English, sailed to India, and melted down to mint the rupees that pay the weavers who build the Taj Mahal. The world is connected, a web of trade and beauty. The wedding gift. We must leave the marble palaces of the north for a moment and fly west to the Arabian Sea. The year is 1661. In London, there is a royal wedding. King Charles II, the merry monarch, is marrying a Portuguese princess, Catherine of Braganza. It is a political union. The Portuguese Empire is crumbling, and they need English protection against the Dutch. Catherine brings a massive dowry. She brings a chest of gold. She brings a box of tea, which makes the drink fashionable in London for the first time. And she brings a map. The King of Portugal gives the King of England a group of 7 swampy, fever-ridden islands on the west coast of India. Bom Bahia, the Portuguese call it, the Good Bay. King Charles looks at the map. He is confused. He thinks it is an island near Brazil. He asks his advisors, "Is it far?" "Very far, sire," they reply, "and very expensive to govern." The king does not want it. It is too much trouble. So in 1668, he makes a deal with the East India Company. He rents the islands to them. For how much? For £10 of gold a year. £10 for the future city of Mumbai. The company takes over. They send a governor, Gerald Aungier. When Aungier arrives, he sees nothing but mudflats, coconut groves, and a few Kohli fishing villages. The air is thick with the smell of drying fish and salt. The water is bad. The mortality rate is so high that the saying goes, 2 monsoons are the life of a man. But Aungier is a visionary. He sees the deep harbour, the only one on the coast where ships can dock safely even during the monsoon. He decides to build a city not for the English, but for everyone. "Come," he writes to the merchants of Surat. "Come, Parsis. Come, Hindus. Come, Armenians. Come, Jews. Here there is no inquisition. Here your money is safe. Here there is law." And they come. They drain the swamps. They build causeways to connect the 7 islands into one long peninsula. They build the fort. It is a city built on commerce, not conquest. A city of gold and mud. The Parsis, Zoroastrian refugees from Persia, arrive and become the shipbuilders. They build the hulls that will one day carry the empire. Bombay rises from the sea. Urbs prima in Indus. The first city of India. Success breeds arrogance. By the 1680s, the East India Company is rich, incredibly rich. Its shareholders in London are receiving dividends of 50% every year. The small group of grocers who met in Founders Hall has grown into a titan. In the Grand Office on Leadenhall Street, a new man takes the chair, Sir Josiah Child. Picture him. He is a man of immense wealth, with a hard, uncompromising face. He has never been to India. He has never felt the heat or smelled the dust. To him, India is a ledger. It is a column of figures. He is a man who believes in absolute power. He looks at the map of India and sees a problem: the Mughals. Why, he asks his board of directors, must we beg for trade permits? Why must we pay bribes to local governors? We have ships. We have guns. We should dictate the terms. It is a moment of profound hubris. A merchant in London, sitting by a warm fire, decides to declare war on the most powerful empire on earth. He writes a letter to the company's factors in India. The ink is black and sharp. The time has come, he writes, to seize the remedy into our own hands. We must establish such a polity of civil and military power as may be the foundation of a large, well-grounded, sure English dominion in India for all time to come. Read those words again. Dominion. He is not talking about trade anymore. He is talking about rule. He orders the company's agents to stop paying taxes. He orders them to fortify their warehouses. He orders them to capture Mughal ships if they are harassed. He is poking a sleeping dragon. The wrath of the Alamgir. Now fly east to the Deccan Plateau. The year is 1686. The emperor is Aurangzeb. His title is Alamgir, conqueror of the universe. He is not like his father Shah Jahan, the builder of the Taj. Aurangzeb is a man of iron discipline. He is an old man now, nearly 70. He sews prayer caps with his own hands to earn his keep. He knows every rupee in his treasury. He commands an army of 500,000 men. His camp is a moving city. It stretches for miles, tents of red velvet, elephants in golden armor, cannons that take 100 oxen to pull. When the news reaches him that a few English merchants in Bengal are refusing to pay customs duties and have burned the town of Balasore, he does not explode in rage. He simply nods. He turns to his generals. These hat-wearers, he says quietly, they have forgotten their place. Remind them. The beggar's apology. This is the moment history often forgets. We like to think of the British Empire as an unstoppable force, but in 1690, the English are not conquerors. They are defeated. They are desperate. They realize they have made a catastrophic mistake. They have lost everything in India. Their trade is dead. Their factories are seized. They have only one choice. They must beg. In 1690, two English envoys, George Weldon and Abraham Navarro, travel to Aurangzeb's camp. Imagine the scene. The emperor sits on the peacock throne. He is surrounded by unimaginable splendor. The air is thick with incense. The Englishmen are made to approach him in the most humiliating way possible. They must tie their hands behind their backs. They must prostrate themselves, flat on the floor, face in the dust. This is the Dandavat. They lie there, sweating, terrified. They read a petition. It is not a demand. It is a plea for mercy. We repent, they say. We are your humble servants. We made a mistake. Please, great Alamgir, forgive us. Let us trade again. This was the absolute opposite of William Hawkins' confident arrival almost a century prior, where he stood toe-to-toe with Jahangir as a drinking companion. This was not a negotiation, it was a surrender. The English had been beaten, and they were forced to learn the Mughals' fundamental rule: respect the law of the land or be annihilated. Aurangzeb looks down at them. He could execute them. He could wipe the English out of India forever with a wave of his hand. But he is a pragmatist. He knows that the English ships are strong at sea. They protect the pilgrimage route to Mecca from pirates. They bring silver into his empire. They are annoying, yes, like mosquitoes, but they are useful mosquitoes. Very well, Aurangzeb says. You may return, but there is a price. They must pay a fine of 150,000 rupees. They must return all captured ships. They must promise, on their Bibles, never to disobey again. The English agree. They crawl out of the court backward. They have survived, but they have learned a lesson they will never forget. Do not fight the Mughals on land. Not yet. The Swamp of Three Villages. The English return to Bengal, but they cannot go back to Hooghly. They are not welcome in the city anymore. Their leader in Bengal is a man named Job Charnock. He is a strange, silent man. He has lived in India for 30 years. He has gone native. He wears Indian clothes, smokes a hookah, and is married to a Hindu widow he rescued from a funeral pyre. He is looking for a place to hide, a place to be safe. He sails down the Hooghly River. He finds a spot where the river bends deep. On the eastern bank, there are 3 small, muddy villages: Sutanuti, Gobindapur, and Kalikata. It is a terrible place. It is a swamp. It is surrounded by salt lakes and jungles. The air is heavy with malaria. Here, Charnock says. His captains argue. Sir, this is a graveyard. The water is brackish. The air is poison. Here, Charnock repeats. The river is deep here. Our ships can anchor close to the shore. And the swamps will protect us from the Mughal cavalry. On a rainy afternoon, August 24th, 1690, Job Charnock steps off his boat onto the muddy bank of Sutanuti. He sits under a large banyan tree. He lights his pipe. He does not know it, but he has just founded the capital of the British Raj. He calls it Calcutta. They start to build, not stone palaces, but mud huts. They die in droves. In 1 year, out of 1,200 Englishmen in Calcutta, 460 die. They call it Charnock's shadow. But they stay, because from this mud, they can control the river. And whoever controls the river controls the trade of Bengal. The English have just made peace. They are walking on eggshells, terrified of angering the emperor again. And then disaster strikes. Not from the land, but from the sea. The year is 1695. A ship is sailing from Mocha in Yemen to Surat. It is the Ganj-e-Sawai, the exceeding treasure. It is the Emperor Aurangzeb's own ship. It is massive, the largest in the Mughal fleet. It is carrying the pilgrims home from Mecca. It is also carrying treasure, 52 sacks of gold, chests of rubies, and something even more precious, the women of the Mughal court returning from Hajj. Waiting in the shadows of the Arabian Sea is a man named Henry Every, the king of pirates. He is an Englishman. He is formerly of the Royal Navy. He has turned rogue. He attacks the Ganj-e-Sawai. The battle is brutal. A cannonball from Every's ship, the Fancy, strikes the mainmast of the Mughal ship. The mast collapses. The pirates board. What follows is a nightmare. It is a scene of violence and violation that shakes the empire. Every and his men torture the passengers to find the hidden gold. They mistreat the women. They strip the ship clean and sail away into the sunset. the richest pirates in history. When the broken Ganges Sawai limps back into Surat, the city explodes. The survivors tell their stories, the women weep, the merchants scream. The news travels to Aurangzeb. The emperor is no longer just annoyed, he is apoplectic. This is an insult to his faith, his family, and his honor. The English are all thieves, the mob cries in the streets of Surat. The Mughal army surrounds the English factory in Surat. They put the president, Samuel Annesley, in chains. "You did this," the officials scream. "Your countrymen did this." The East India Company is in panic mode. They just apologized 5 years ago. Now this? They send frantic letters to London. "Catch this man," they plead. "Catch Henry Every, or the company is dead." The British government launches the first worldwide manhunt in history. They put a bounty on Every's head. £1,000, a fortune. But they never catch him. Henry Every vanishes with his gold. To save themselves, the company has to pay. They pay massive indemnities to the emperor. They promise to provide armed escorts for all Mughal pilgrim ships. They become the emperor's navy. They survive, but only just. It teaches them a lesson. In the 17th century, they are not the masters. They are the servants. They serve at the pleasure of the great Mogul. For the next 50 years, they will be quiet. They will be the humble servants they promised to be. They trade, they build, they bride. But the world around them is changing. The sun sets on the 17th century. The shadows are getting longer. The great Aurangzeb is growing old. His sons are waiting for him to die. And in the darkness, something new is stirring. Ambition. This final batch covers the dramatic climax of the story. The collapse of the Mughal Empire, the rain-soaked betrayal at Plassey, the tragedy of the famine, the high-tech wars against the Tiger of Mysore, the obsessive mapping of the subcontinent, and the final, quiet dissolution of the company. The river of time flows into the year 1707, a date etched in black in the history of India. In a tent in the Deccan, the Emperor Aurangzeb breathes his last. He dies at the age of 88, holding a string of prayer beads, whispering the name of God. He leaves behind an empire that stretches from Kabul to the tip of the peninsula. But it is an empire exhausted by war. The treasury is empty, the soldiers are unpaid, the peasants are rebellious, and when the old lion dies, the wolves come out. His sons fight for the throne. It is a fratricidal struggle where brothers turn against brothers. In the span of 12 years, 4 different emperors sit on the peacock throne. The central pillar of India cracks. The governors of the distant provinces stop sending taxes to Delhi. In Hyderabad, the Nizam declares his independence. In Oudh, the wazir becomes a king. In Bengal, the richest province of all, the Nawab becomes the master of his own destiny. The great anarchy begins. For the English East India Company, huddling in their forts in Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay, this is terrifying. The protective umbrella of the great Mogul is gone. The roads are no longer safe. Warlords roam the countryside. But chaos is also a ladder. A new player enters the game. A man who sees the chaos not as a danger, but as an opportunity. He is not English, he is French. Joseph Francois Dupleix. He is the governor of Pondicherry. He is a flamboyant, ambitious man who dresses in the silk robes of a Nawab. He realizes a profound truth. In this anarchy, a small, disciplined European army can defeat a massive Indian rabble. He starts to hire local Indian soldiers. He gives them bright uniforms. He gives them muskets. He drills them in the European style. Left, right, load, fire. He calls them sepoys. Dupleix begins to rent his army out to the Indian princes. Do you want to be the Nawab? He whispers to a pretender, "I will help you, for a price." The English watch him with jealousy. They see the French gaining power, gaining land, gaining influence. "We must do the same," the English factors decide. They begin to hire their own sepoys. They begin to play the game of kings. And in the middle of this violence, a young Englishman rises. Robert Clive. Look at him. He is not a born general. He was sent to India as a teenager because he was a delinquent, a boy who fought in the streets and terrified his neighbours in Shropshire. He started as a writer, a clerk, counting bales of cloth, bored out of his mind, suffering from a deep black depression. He once tried to end his own life with a pistol. He put the muzzle to his temple and pulled the trigger. It misfired. He checked the gun. It was loaded. He tried again. Click. Misfire. He put the gun down. "Fate," he said, "must have something in store for me." Fate has arrived. Let us fly to Bengal. The year is 1756. The old, strong Nawab, Alivardi Khan, is dead. He was a man who knew how to handle the Europeans. "Do not let them build forts," he had warned on his deathbed. "If you do, this country will not be yours." His successor is his grandson, Siraj-ud-Dawla. Picture him. He is 23 years old. He is handsome, volatile, and immensely proud. He has grown up in the lap of luxury, surrounded by sycophants. He has never been told no. He looks at Calcutta. The English are digging a moat around Fort William. They are mounting cannons on the walls. They say it is to protect themselves from the French. Siraj does not believe them. To him, it looks like defiance. It looks like a state within a state. "Fill the ditch," he orders. "Tear down the walls." The British governor, Roger Drake, ignores him. He sends a letter that is polite but dismissive. He treats the Nawab like a child. It is a fatal error. Siraj explodes. He gathers his army, 30,000 infantry, 20,000 cavalry, 400 war elephants. It is a sea of men and beasts. He marches on Calcutta. The English are terrified. They have only 500 soldiers. Their walls are crumbling. Their powder is damp. Governor Drake, the man who insulted the Nawab, does something unforgivable. As the Mughal army approaches, he runs. He jumps onto the last boat leaving the fort, abandoning his people. He rows away down the river, leaving women, children, and soldiers behind. On June 20th, 1756, Calcutta falls. The Nawab rides through the gates. He is triumphant. He renames the city Alinagar. He orders the remaining British prisoners to be locked up for the night. What happens next is a shadow that will hang over the empire for 2 centuries. The prisoners are herded into the fort's punishment cell. It is a small room, intended for petty thieves. It is the height of Indian summer. The air is thick, hot, and still. There is only one small window. History calls it the Black Hole of Calcutta. We will not step inside that room. It is enough to know that in the suffocating heat of that night, many souls departed. When the door was opened the next morning, only a handful walked out into the blinding sun. The tragedy shocks the world. But for the company, it is not just a tragedy. It is a cause for war. The conspiracy news travels slowly in the 18th century. It takes 2 months for the story of Calcutta's fall to reach Madras. When it arrives, the English are stunned. They have lost their richest settlement. They turn to Robert Clive. Clive gathers an expedition. 5 ships, 900 European soldiers, 1,500 sepoys. They sail north into the teeth of the monsoon. It is a miserable voyage. The ships are battered by storms. Men die of fever. But Clive is relentless. He is fueled by a cold, calculating fury. They arrive in Bengal in December. The fog is thick on the river. They retake Calcutta easily. Siraj-ud-Dawla, surprised by their return, withdraws. But Clive is not satisfied with just getting the city back. He wants more. He wants to ensure this never happens again. He wants to replace the Nawab. He looks around the court of Murshidabad, the capital of Bengal. He sees cracks. Siraj is not popular. He is arrogant. He has insulted his generals. He has insulted his bankers. Ah, the bankers. Meet the Jagat Seths, the bankers of the world. They are a family of Jain financiers who control the mint of Bengal. They are richer than the King of France. They can move millions of rupees with a single signature. They are the true power behind the throne. Siraj has made a mistake. He slapped one of the Jagat Seths in public. The bankers are quiet men. They do not fight with swords. They fight with gold. They send a secret message to Clive. "We will help you," they whisper, "if you get rid of this boy." A conspiracy is born. It is a play with three actors: Clive, the soldier; the Jagat Seths, the money; and Mir Jafar, the traitor. Mir Jafar is the Nawab's uncle. He is an old soldier, bitter and ambitious. He commands the largest part of the Nawab's army. The deal is struck in the dark. The treaty is written on red paper. "Make me Nawab," Mir Jafar says, "and I will give you everything." The stage is set. The place is a small village called Palashi. The English pronounce it Plassey. It is a grove of mango trees near the river Bhagirathi. The date is June 23rd, 1757. It is the rainy season. The ground is a swamp of mud. The air is so humid you can drink it. On one side, Siraj-ud-Dawla's army, 50,000 men, 53 cannons. They stretch across the horizon like a glittering wave. On the other side, Robert Clive, 3,000 men. It looks like suicide. 50,000 against 3,000. The battle begins at dawn. The Mughal cannons roar. The ground shakes. But then the sky opens. A torrential monsoon rain begins to fall. It is a curtain of water. It is the hand of fate. The Nawab's gunners have not covered their gunpowder. The powder turns to black sludge. Their cannons fall silent. The English, disciplined and prepared, have covered their powder with tarpaulins. They wait. When the rain stops, the Nawab's cavalry charges, thinking the English guns are also useless. Clive gives the order. Fire! The English cannons erupt. Grapeshot shreds the charge. The cavalry is shattered. Siraj turns to his commander, Mir Jafar. "Uncle," he pleads, "attack now! Crush them!" Mir Jafar sits on his horse. He looks at the English. He looks at the Nawab. He does nothing. He folds his arms. His entire division, the bulk of the army, stands like stone statues. They watch as the English advance. Siraj realizes the truth. It is not a battle. It is an auction. He has been sold. Panic sets in. The young Nawab turns his elephant and flees. His army, seeing their leader run and their general refuse to fight, disintegrates. By 5 p.m., it is over. The Battle of Plassey is one of the most decisive events in human history. And yet, casualties are incredibly low. The British lose fewer than 25 men. The sun sets over the mango grove. The company has won, not by fighting, but by buying. The treasury and the scroll. Clive marches into the capital, Murshidabad. It is a city larger and richer than London. The palaces are lined with spectators. They watch in silence as the red-coated soldiers march through the narrow streets. Clive enters the treasury of the Nawab. Imagine the scene. It is a cave of wonders. To the left, heaps of gold mohurs. To the right, heaps of silver rupees. In the center, chests overflowing with jewels. Diamonds as big as walnuts, rubies the colour of pigeon blood, pearls that glow in the dim light. Mir Jafar, the new Nawab, tells Clive, "Take what you want." The British officers go mad. They fill their pockets, their hats, their boots. They load boats with gold. 100 boats, filled with silver rupees, sail down the river to Calcutta. The company receives £2.5 million, a staggering sum, billions in today's money. Clive himself takes a fortune. He becomes the richest self-made man in Europe overnight. But the appetite grows with eating. The puppet Nawabs try to rebel. In 1764, at the Battle of Buxar, the company defeats the combined armies of the Emperor and the Nawab of Oud. The aftermath brings us to one of the most surreal moments in history. The date is August 12, 1765. The place is a silk tent in the city of Allahabad. Robert Clive has returned. He stands before the Emperor, Shah Alam II. Look at the scene. The Emperor has no throne. His baggage was lost in the retreat. So, the British officers find an English dining table, a piece of furniture covered in velvet, and they put an armchair on top of it. There sits the descendant of Genghis Khan and Tamerlane, on top of a dining table. He is handing a scroll to Robert Clive. The scroll is the Diwani. What is the Diwani? It is a legal document. It grants the East India Company the right to collect the revenues, the taxes, of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Think about what this means. The company is now the taxman of 20 million people. They do not have to govern. They do not have to run the courts. They do not have to police the streets. That is still the Nawab's job. But the money? The money goes to the company. It is the perfect system. Power without responsibility. Clive writes to London, "We must now become the nabobs ourselves." The stock price of the East India Company in London soars. It reaches £273 a share. Everyone wants a piece. People are borrowing money to buy stock. They think the streets of Calcutta are paved with gold. They do not see the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. The year is 1769. The monsoon fails. In Bengal, the life of the people depends on the rain. It is the heartbeat of the land. When the rain comes, the rice grows tall and green. When it fails, the earth turns to stone. The peasants look at the sky. It is a hard, blue, indifferent expanse. The crops wither in the fields. The rice paddies crack open like thirsty mouths. In the villages, the granaries are empty. The price of rice begins to climb. Usually, in times of drought, the Mughal rulers would open their reserves. They would lower taxes. They would lend money to the farmers to buy seed for the next year. It was the duty of the king to feed his people. But the company is not a king. It is a corporation. Its duty is not to the people. Its duty is to the shareholders in London who are waiting for their 12% dividend. The governor of Bengal sends reports to London. The revenue must be collected, he writes. The investment must be made. Instead of lowering taxes, the company raises them. In the first year of the drought, they collect more tax than they did in the year of plenty. They forbid the hoarding of rice by locals, while their own agents buy up the grain to feed their army and to sell at a profit. The result is silence. The year becomes 1770. The famine descends. It is not a sudden event, it is a slow, crushing weight. We will not dwell on the horrors, but we must acknowledge the scale. Walk through the streets of Murshidabad in your mind. The looms are silent. The weavers have no strength to throw the shuttle. The markets are empty. People sell their jewelry for a handful of rice. Then they sell their tools. Then their cattle. Then there is nothing left to sell. The jungle begins to reclaim the villages. Where once there were children playing, now there is only the rustle of dry leaves and the cry of jackals. 1/3 of the population of Bengal vanishes. 10 million souls. 10 million. That is more than the population of London, Paris, and Rome combined at that time. It is a tragedy so vast that the human mind cannot hold it. It is a manwantar, a destruction of an epoch. The golden bird is starving. The paradise of nations has become a graveyard. And then, the irony. The famine is so severe that it kills the economy. Dead farmers cannot pay taxes. Dead weavers cannot make silk. The revenue collapses. In London, the shareholders are waiting for their checks. They are waiting for the gold of Bengal. But the ships arrive with empty holds. Panic spreads on Leadenhall Street. The stock price crashes. The East India bubble bursts. The company is bankrupt. The most powerful corporation in the world, the ruler of India, is broke. They go to the British government. They knock on the door of Parliament. "Help us," they say. "We are too big to fail." It is the first great corporate bailout in history. The British government agrees to save them, but there is a price. In 1773, they pass the Regulating Act. The company is no longer a private merchant. It is now a department of the state. Warren Hastings becomes the first Governor-General. He looks out from his palace in Calcutta. He sees the smoke of the funeral pyres. He sees the empty fields. He realizes that the days of the merchant are over. "We are the sovereigns now," he whispers, "and God help us." We leave the starving fields of Bengal and fly south, deep into the high, rocky plateau of the Deccan, where the air is cooler and the jungles are thick with shadows. The year is 1780, and while the company thinks it is invincible, having swallowed Bengal and humbled the emperor, there is a man in Mysore who is not afraid, a man whose name is whispered with dread in the nurseries of London, Tipu Sultan. They call him the Tiger of Mysore, and it is not merely a nickname, but an obsession that defines his existence. His throne is shaped like a tiger. His soldiers wear uniforms striped like tigers, and he even possesses a mechanical wooden tiger that, when wound up, mauls a British soldier while emitting a recorded roar. Tipu is a modern man trapped in a medieval world, a ruler who builds a library while the company counts coins, who collects telescopes and plants a botanical garden filled with seeds from France and Turkey. But most dangerously, he is a man of science who has developed iron-cased rockets. Long before modern warfare, his engineers pack metal tubes with gunpowder, attach them to long bamboo poles, and light them, sending them screaming across the battlefield like banshees to crash into the British lines and explode, panicking the horses and breaking the disciplined red ranks. For 20 years, this tiger holds the British at bay, a relentless force that refuses to be tamed. But the company is a hydra. Cut off one head and 10 more ships arrive from Portsmouth. In 1799, during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, the British army led by Arthur Wellesley, the future Duke of Wellington, marches on Tipu's capital, Seringapatam. The siege is a slow, grinding destruction, the British heavy guns pounding the granite walls for weeks with a monotonous boom, 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 until the stone crumbles into dust. On May 4th, in the suffocating heat of the afternoon, the British storm the walls, finding Tipu not hiding in his palace, but fighting like a common soldier at the breach, his sword flashing in the smoke until he is shot and falls, bayoneted by soldiers maddened by the heat and fear. The tiger is dead. The British loot the city, breaking the golden tiger throne into pieces to share the gold, shipping the mechanical tiger to London as a trophy. With the South fallen, the company turns its gaze west to the Maratha Confederacy, the Lords of the Hills. These are the masters of light cavalry, men who ride small, wiry horses that move like a swarm of locusts. At the Battle of Assaye in 1803, Arthur Wellesley faces them again. Outnumbered 10-1, staring across the River Kytna, At a wall of horses and French-trained artillery, he attacks. It is the bloodiest battle the company ever fights. The fields turn to mud with blood. Men fight hand to hand in the river, and Wellesley has 2 horses shot out from under him. Yet the British discipline holds. The Maratha line breaks. One by one, the great warlords are brought to heel, forced to sign subsidiary alliances, golden handcuffs where the company offers protection in exchange for disbanding their armies and paying a bill they can never afford. When the payment fails, the company takes the land. The map turns pink, inch by inch. The wars are loud, filled with the roar of cannons, but the true conquest of India happens in absolute silence, with a theodolite. In 1802, a man named William Lambton stands on a hill in Madras with a mad idea. He wants to measure India. Not just map it, but measure the very curvature of the earth, defining every inch of the subcontinent with mathematical precision. It is called the Great Trigonometrical Survey. It is a project of pharaonic scale that will take 70 years to complete. Imagine the team, a line of men stretching across the horizon, carrying massive instruments weighing half a ton, flags and chains, walking from the tip of the south at Kanyakumari all the way to the Himalayas in a perfectly straight line. If a jungle is in the way, they cut it down. If a hill is in the way, they climb it. If a village is in the way, they climb onto the temple roof to set up their telescope. They work at night to avoid the heat haze, standing in the cool silence of the Deccan Plateau at 2 a.m., lighting a signal lamp on a hill 20 miles away, peering through the glass to align the crosshairs. Click. One triangle closed. Lambton dies on the road, consumed by the task, and his assistant George Everest takes over. A hard man suffering from malaria and jungle fever, yet obsessed with the grid. To the British, this is not just science, it is control. To map a thing is to own it. They are catching India in a net of geometry. By 1840, the survey reaches the foothills of the Himalayas. They see the great white peaks rising in the distance, like the teeth of the world. They measure them from afar, labeling the highest one, Peak 15. Later, they calculate its height at 29,002 feet, the roof of the world, and name it after the man who never saw it, Everest. The conquest is complete. They have conquered the kings with gunpowder, and now they have conquered the land with mathematics. The last lion. There is one piece left, the northwest, the Punjab, the land of the 5 rivers, the home of the Sikhs. For decades, the company does not dare touch the Punjab because of one man, Ranjit Singh, the Lion of the Punjab. He is a giant of history, a man with one eye lost to smallpox, a pockmarked face, and a heart of iron who has united the Sikh Mughals into an empire that rivals the British. He has an army trained by French generals, veterans of Napoleon's wars, and artillery that is the best in Asia. The British Governor-General visits him, drinks with him, watches his dancing girls, and signs treaties of friendship, smiling while hiding his fear. They look at the Sikh Khalsa army, tall, bearded men in blue turbans, fierce and disciplined, and decide, not yet. But in 1839, the lion dies. The Punjab falls into chaos. His sons are murdered, and the Queen, Jindal, tries desperately to hold the throne for her baby son, Duleep Singh. The British see the crack in the armour. They move in. The Anglo-Sikh wars of the 1840s are the hardest fights the British ever face. Battles where they are nearly destroyed, losing colours and guns to the ferocity of the Sikh resistance. But treachery is the company's oldest weapon. Some of the Sikh generals are bought. The powder is sabotaged. In 1849, the Punjab falls. The young king, Duleep Singh, only 10 years old, is forced to sign away his kingdom. He is forced to hand over the Koh-i-Noor diamond to Queen Victoria. He is taken away to England to be a pet of the Queen, growing up in an English castle, wearing English suits, and forgetting his Punjabi. The map is complete. From the sea to the mountains, the company rules it all. The Red Lotus. And in the silence of this victory, the country begins to change. It is the 1850s. A new Governor-General, Lord Dalhousie, arrives, a man of the Industrial Revolution who sees India as a land to be organized. He builds roads, digs canals, and strings telegraph wires across the subcontinent, the lightning post, allowing orders to fly from Calcutta to Peshawar before the sun sets. But he also brings a new law, the doctrine of lapse. It is a simple, legalistic rule. If an Indian prince dies without a natural heir, his kingdom does not go to his adopted son. It goes to the company. One by one, the ancient kingdoms fall. Satara, Nagpur, and most famously, Jhansi. In Jhansi, the widowed queen, Rani Lakshmibai, begs the company to recognize her adopted son as the heir, pleading her case with dignity and fire. But Dalhousie is cold. He points to the ledger, points to the law, and annexes her kingdom. He does not know it, but he has just created one of the fiercest enemies the British Empire will ever face. She is swallowed by the red ink. The year becomes 1857. The atmosphere is heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. There are rumors in the bazaars, a prophecy. The rule of the company will end 100 years after Plassey. Plassey was 1757. It is now 1857. Then, the spark. A new rifle is introduced, the Enfield rifle. To load it, a soldier must bite off the end of a greased cartridge. The whisper spreads like wildfire through the barracks. The grease, it is made of cow fat. It is made of pig fat. For the Hindu soldiers, the cow is sacred. For the Muslim soldiers, the pig is forbidden. They believe the company is trying to destroy their caste, their religion, their very souls. They refuse to touch the cartridges. On a scorching Sunday in May, in the cantonment of Meerut, the dam breaks. The sepoys revolt. They break open the armory. They free their imprisoned comrades. They burn the bungalows of their officers. To Delhi, they cry. To the Emperor. They march through the night to the Red Fort. They find the last Mughal, Bahadur Shah Zafar. He is 82 years old, a poet, a mystic, a man who loves his doves and his gardens. He has no army, he has no money, but to the soldiers he is the symbol of India. Reluctantly, the old poet accepts. He is lifted onto a throne he cannot hold. The revolt of 1857 has begun. We will not walk through the fires of that year. It is a time of madness. For 6 months, the Ganges turns red. The British are besieged in Lucknow. They are massacred in Kanpur. The company is fighting for its life. But the British government sends reinforcements. Regiments of Highlanders, Sikhs, Gurkhas. They march with a grim determination. They retake Delhi in September. The fighting is brutal. The city of poetry and gardens is turned into a ruin. The old emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, flees to Humayun's tomb, the great mausoleum of his ancestor. He hides in the crypt, surrounded by the ghosts of his dynasty. A British officer, Major William Hodson, finds him. The emperor steps out into the sunlight. He hands over his sword. It is a small ceremonial blade. With that gesture, the Mughal Empire ends. 300 years of history. The builders of the Taj Mahal, the patrons of art and music, gone. Hodson takes the emperor's sons, the last princes, and executes them near the Delhi gate. The emperor is sent into exile. He is put on a bullock cart and taken to Rangoon in Burma. He will die there, a prisoner, writing poems on the walls of his garage with a piece of burnt stick. How unfortunate is Zafar, he writes, that he could not get even 2 yards of land for a burial in his beloved country. The revolt is crushed. The silence returns. But the East India Company is finished. The British Parliament looks at the devastation. They look at the corruption, the mismanagement, the sheer arrogance that led to the uprising. Enough, they say. A trading company cannot rule a continent. On November 1st, 1858, a proclamation is read out in Allahabad. It is from Queen Victoria. We hold ourselves bound to the natives of our Indian territories by the same obligations of duty which bind us to all our other subjects. She promises religious tolerance. She promises equal protection. The Company Raj is over. The British Raj has begun. And what of the company itself? It lingers on for a few more years, a ghost in a shell. It manages the tea trade. It pays out dividends to its old shareholders. But on June 1st, 1874, the final act is passed. The East India Company is dissolved. The corporation that changed the world, that commanded armies larger than nations, that moved mountains of silver and oceans of tea, ceases to exist. Its records are packed into crates and sent to a damp basement in London. Its flags are folded, its ships are sold, it vanishes into the mist of history. Now, let us step back. Let us float high above the subcontinent one last time. Look down at the land. You can still see the footprints of the company if you know where to look. You can see them in the architecture of Bombay, the Gothic railway stations that look like cathedrals. You can see them in the tea gardens of Darjeeling, misty and green. You can see them in the dusty law courts of Calcutta, where men in black robes still argue in English. You can see them in the cricket maidans, where children play the game brought by sailors 3 centuries ago. The river of time has washed away the pain. It has washed away the anger. What remains is a complex, woven tapestry. Threads of gold and threads of grey. The Portuguese are gone. The Dutch are gone. The French are gone. The company is gone. The Raj is gone. India remains. It absorbs everything. It changes, yet it stays the same. The sun sets over the Arabian Sea. The water turns to liquid gold. The stars come out, one by one. The same stars that guided William Hawkins. The same stars that watched over Jahangir. The same stars that looked down on the silence of 1857. We are just travellers here, observers. The story is told. The book is closed. Let the weight of the history drop from your shoulders. You are safe. You are warm. The river meets the sea. The current slows. Drift. Sleep.